So in our last video, I talked a little bit about the fact that most writers write, at least initially, from intuition, and how in order to become a good intuitive writer, you need to write often. Not just a lot, but often. I talked about how it's important to at least have a few minutes every day or every other day where you are putting your ideas down, and having those creative moments every day. Today, though, I want to talk a little bit about where those ideas come from, at least one place that they come from. And real quick, I'm probably going to get into this in further detail on a later video, but I see the writing process in three major sort of chunks or seasons. You have your idea gathering time, which is a little bit more what I talked about last week, where you gather the ideas, you put them together, and you start to put together like a catalog of ideas so that when you go to sit down and write, you have things to pull from. So there's the cataloging of ideas, and then of course there's the finishing time when you sit down and you start working through an idea, you start hashing an idea out. I'll talk more in depth about both of those things, but there is another part of the process. This part actually comes before either of those other two. I mean, if you're gonna get real technical, it's often all happening at the same time. I'm creating ideas and gathering ideas and finishing things. But for the sake of conversation, imagine it in three sort of separate seasons or times, or three separate parts of the writing process. So the gathering of ideas, and then the fleshing out of ideas, and then of course the finishing. But what comes before that is what I like to call stocking the pond. So ideas all come from somewhere. Ideas don't just show up in your head, generally speaking, and even when ideas do show up in your head, it's usually because they've been floating around outside of your head and maybe you haven't realized it, And so there's a lot of places to go to get ideas to stock the pond, but you have to be real intentional about this. The things you listen to, especially, are going to come out in your music, and that's okay. Not only is it okay, that's super normal. When you're learning to speak as a child, initially you will mimic your parents. You'll copy your parents, the people you're around. Probably wherever you're from, you have an accent. It's because you started by mimicking. So we all start by mimicking, and as a songwriter, you start by mimicking. And the truth is, if you don't, you'll find that you still are mimicking. It's just you're probably only mimicking the people who are right in front of you or the artist you're listening to at the moment. And it can create a very narrow palette, a very narrow set of ideas instead of a broad set of ideas. And lots of times you realize the artist that you are copying, that you are mimicking, they're mimicking lots of different artists, So Pablo Picasso says, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." And I don't know exactly what he means, but what I imagine he is saying is that to borrow is to see someone you like and you just copy them, and maybe you're good, maybe you can do it in a way that's impressive. But I think to steal means you don't just copy that artist or that songwriter that you like. You go and you copy and you steal from all of their influences. Right? You go back and you listen to the people they listen to, listen to people they listen to, listen to the people they listen to, and you bring in all this into your conversation so that you're not just a copy or a carbon copy or a clone of another artist. Or if you're going to clone yourself, don't clone yourself by an artist who is popular right now. Clone yourself from someone who a lot of people haven't heard of, someone obscure. You see this happen a lot with some of your favorite artists. Just straight up copy people you haven't heard of. It's great. It's totally okay, we all do it, and that's part of the growth process, So that's really what I want to talk about. Is one of the ways to stock your pond, one of the best ways to stock your pond, is to listen broadly and intentionally. See, we live in the golden age of music listening. I was born in the 90s, so if I wanted to get into jazz, if I wanted to understand or enjoy jazz, maybe I could turn on the radio and I'd hear whatever came on. But if I really wanted to dig in, I'd have to go to the store and buy a CD. And I remember asking my friends, where should I start? Because I'm gonna go spend my $18 on a CD to get a handful of songs. I wanted to make sure that it's gonna be something that's good or something that's important. So I remember someone recommended Miles Davis, and I drove down to the store and I walked in, put my $20 bill on the counter, and I bought one Miles Davis album. They gave me some change, but most of that $20 was gone, and I listened to it all the way home. Right now, which there is something to say about that. I'll have more comments about that later, but now you have access to almost all the music you could ever imagine. There are still records that aren't on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube, but between those three, you can find almost anything that has ever existed, that's ever been recorded and released. You can listen to it for very cheap. I think I probably spent thousands of dollars a year on CDs, towards the end of the 90s, and I'd mow the grass, save up all my money, and I'll go buy CDs because that's what you had. Or you could use the tape and record it off the radio. Now you have it all, And so I think it's important, especially if someone's a famous artist, if there's a genre you're not familiar with, go listen to the most popular people of the genre. If you find a vein you like, dig in. Find some more obscure people to listen to, if you come across them. But you can be a musical explorer. There is so much music. You will never be able to consume or listen to all the music that's available to you today, but you can try, and you can have a lot of fun trying. Try and listen to new music every week, especially music that you maybe aren't familiar with. Listen to some instrumental music, some classical music, some world music, some music from Africa, some music from Asia, some music from South America, this video may be where you're from. If you're in South America, listen to some North American music. I don't know. But find music that you're not familiar with, and what you'll discover is that it will ignite and light a fire in your creative place in your brain. You'll come across something and something will snap and it'll give you an idea. Or maybe it doesn't happen like that, but you sort of start to develop a catalog of music in your subconscious. And when you go to write a song, you start pulling from these areas maybe you didn't have before because you've got all this music happening in your brain. It also, and maybe I kind of mentioned this before, but find your favorite artist and look up. That's another thing you can do. You can go on the internet, you can find out who they listen to. Find your favorite artist, people that you resonate with, and go and explore their influences, the people that they love and the people that they were listening to when they wrote. And then look up their influences. There's so many things you can do like that. And even it's not a bad idea to learn a cover song. Go learn a cover song. One of my tricks that I do when I have writer's block is I'll go learn another song. When I first started the album that I'm going to release here really soon, I had this moment where I was like, everything sounds the same. Everything sounds like the last record. What could I do that was new? And so I looked up on YouTube how to play Drake songs on the piano. I'm not a piano player. So I learned these chords. And I learned them so poorly, it sounded like something else. And that became a song. It actually became multiple songs. So see, there are all kinds of things you can do to stir up that creative process. And here's the rule, and I'll repeat it over and over again. Here is the main rule, the number one rule. If it sounds good, it is good. If you get there by copying someone, ripping off their chords, moving their melodies around, and it doesn't sound like a carbon copy, cool. No one cares how you get there, as long as you get there, So listen widely, listen intentionally, and have fun. Explore new music. Don't be afraid to listen to things you have never listened to before. I promise. Number one, you're going to fall in love with it, and it's going to be a passion that you're not going to be able to get away from because there's so much music in the world, and there's history connected to music, and there's culture connected to music, and there are people connected to music. Connect with that music. Connect with those people, and there is a well of creativity and ideas that comes from every different song you listen to, every artist you're introduced to. Every person is a potential well of ideas. Awesome. Once again, if you like these songwriting videos or you like my other music that I'm posting on the channel, please subscribe. And if you have questions, post your questions in the comments. I'll read all your comments, and I'm going to try in future videos to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I hope you're enjoying these videos.